All right, so today we're going to look into something a little different. You know, sometimes you just need a little more edge in your writing.
Yeah.
Like all those sugary, sweet words, they just don't hit the same. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we've got this article, and it's saying we can learn a thing or two from the Grinch,
Yeah.
like how to channel his kind of cynical charm into our own writing.
Interesting.
Ready to ditch the candy canes and get a little Grinchy with our words.
Well, it's funny you mentioned the Grinch because he's not exactly known for his eloquence, let's be honest.
True.
But that's kind of the point, isn't it? He cuts through all the holiday BS and just gets real.
And people kind of love him for it.
Exactly. There's something refreshing about that raw honesty, you know? It's like the article says, ditch the niceness and go for the honesty, even if it makes a few people uncomfortable.
Yeah. They actually compared Christmas to like a bad ex.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one who makes all these promises, but then leaves you with just like a pile of wrapping paper and a broken heart.
Ouch.
Just brutal. But I mean, kind of true, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about humor. It can make even the toughest truths a little easier to swallow.
Right.
It's not about being mean or anything. It's about finding that sweet spot between being direct and still keeping your audience engaged.
So how do we do that? Like, how do we bring that kind of Grinch-level honesty into our own writing?
Well, think about it. What are some of those uncomfortable truths that you could weave into your work?
Ooh, good question.
And how could you use humor to make them a little more palatable? You know, take the edge off.
All right, so we're trading in the sugar plums for some straight talk.
Mm-hmm.
What's next on our Grinch-inspired writing journey?
Well, the article says that embracing the absurd is key.
The absurd.
Yeah, Christmas is already pretty fantastical, right? Sure. So why not lean into that in your writing?
I like where this is going.
They had this hilarious scenario about, like, a Christmas gone wrong, you know? The tree's on fire, the dog's tangled in lights, the whole 9 yards.
Sounds like my family's Christmas last year.
Right. It's like a holiday horror movie, but with a laugh track. And that's the beauty of exaggeration. It's not about making things up. It's about amplifying those relatable moments for a comedic effect.
So it's like turning up the volume on those everyday Christmas disasters.
Precisely. How can you use exaggeration in your writing to make those moments pop? You know, grab your reader's attention.
Okay, so we're being honest. We're embracing the absurd. This is starting to feel a lot like my last family Christmas dinner.
Uh-huh.
Where do we go from here?
Now, this is where things get interesting. The article calls this the art of the provoke and soothe.
Provoke and soothe.
Okay.
Okay, I like it already.
Like the Grinch.
Yeah.
You know, he shakes things up, disrupts everyone's happy little holiday, but then he wins them over in the end.
Wait, are you saying we need to make our readers hate us first and then win them back? That sounds a little manipulative.
No, not at all. It's more about using a bold statement or an unexpected perspective to challenge your readers' expectations.
Okay.
And then use humor or a clever twist to bring them back around, you know, kind of like a literary 1-2 punch.
Okay, that makes more sense. I'm not sure I'm ready to be public enemy number one just yet.
They actually compared it to like a poetry slam.
The poetry slam.
Yeah. People might come for the free show, but they stay because they're moved by the performances, you know? It's that unexpected emotional shift that keeps them hooked.
So it's like creating tension and then providing relief through humor.
Mm.
Kind of like a literary roller coaster ride.
Exactly. So how can you apply this provoke and soothe technique to your writing? What kind of truths can you present that will first challenge and then delight your reader?
Okay, lots to unpack there. But first, I think I need another cup of coffee. This Grinch-inspired writing is a lot more intense than I thought.
Huh.
What else do we have in store?
Okay, so we're diving deeper into this Grinchy writing style. And this
Great.
next tip is a little bit, well, let's just say it's unconventional.
Hit me with it.
The article suggests writing like you've had one too many glasses of mulled wine.
Okay, now we're talking. Are we actually supposed to like get a little tipsy before we write? Because I'm not sure my deadlines would appreciate that.
Not necessarily, though a little festive spirit never hurts, right?
True.
It's more about capturing that feeling, you know? That sense of looseness and letting go of inhibitions, like when you're all warmed up from that mulled wine and feeling a bit more carefree.
So we're talking about breaking free from like all the rules and structures.
Yeah.
Letting our creativity run wild.
Exactly. It's about giving yourself permission to explore those unexpected ideas and play with language a little bit, you know? Like the article mentioned this epiphany the author had after a few too many glasses of mulled wine.
I'm intrigued.
They said life is like an advent calendar,
Okay.
full of surprises, but mostly chocolate.
I can definitely get behind that philosophy.
It's about finding those unexpected connections and expressing them in a way that's both playful and insightful.
So it's like embracing the element of surprise in our writing.
Precisely. Remember, you can always edit later. The important thing is to get those initial thoughts down without overthinking it.
Okay, so we're channeling our inner tipsy writer. Got it. But what about the actual message? We can't just be rambling on about random stuff, right?
Of course not. That's where this last point comes in. The article calls it making them cry, but with laughter.
Okay, that sounds intriguing.
It's about leaving your reader with a lasting impression. But instead of going for that sentimental tearjerker, you find the humor in the struggle.
Ah, so like finding the funny side of holiday family drama.
Exactly. Like that line from the article about how surviving 3 days with family is basically like surviving anything life throws at you.
So true.
It's about tapping into those universal experiences we all share. Those moments that are stressful or frustrating, but ultimately have a comedic element to them. What are some of the truths about your topic that you can express in a humorous way? What are those shared struggles that your readers can relate to and laugh about?
That's a good point. It's like taking those awkward moments and turning them into something we can bond over. But isn't there a risk of trivializing serious issues?
That's a valid concern. It's all about finding that balance. You don't want to make light of sensitive topics, but there's often a way to acknowledge the hardships while still finding the humor in the situation. You know, life is messy and complicated, and sometimes the best way to cope is to just laugh at the absurdity of it all.
So it's like finding the silver lining, or maybe the chocolate in the advent calendar. It's about recognizing that even in the midst of challenges, there's often something to smile about. Okay, I'm starting to see how all these Grinch-inspired tips can actually lead to some pretty insightful writing. But how do we tie it all together? How do we take all this advice and actually apply it to our own work? Okay, so we've spent all this time talking about the Grinch and like how to bring his kind of bold energy into our writing. But how do we actually make it happen?
Well, think about what makes the Grinch so iconic. It's not just that he's grumpy, you know? It's that he's not afraid to be different. He challenges everything.
Yeah.
And your writing should do the same. Don't be afraid to stand out.
So I should be ditching all those like, those generic holiday messages and like really embracing my inner Scrooge.
Well, maybe not that extreme,
Yeah.
but yeah. It's about finding your own voice, even if it's a little rough around the edges.
Okay, I like that. But how do we do that without just like, yelling at everyone?
Yeah.
How do we ensure our writing is still engaging?
That's where all those tools we talked about come in. The honesty, the exaggeration, the humor, those unexpected twists. That's what makes your writing pop, It's like the article said, most writing is like a Christmas market. It's all pretty and festive, but ultimately kind of forgettable. What you need is a tornado to come through and like rip away all the decorations and expose what's underneath.
Okay, wow. That's a pretty intense visual.
But it gets the point across, right? You need to strip away all that fluff and get to the heart of the matter.
Right, so it's about being real, even if it's not always pretty.
Exactly. And sometimes real means being a little cynical, a little darker. But remember, it's not about being negative. It's about being authentic.
Okay, I can get behind that. So it's like finding the humor in the darkness. Like finding the light in the shadows. It's a different way of looking at things.
Precisely. And remember, even the Grinch had a change of heart in the end. He opened himself up to vulnerability and found connection with others. Your writing can do the same.
I never thought about it that way. So by being honest and real, we're actually inviting readers to connect with us on a deeper level.
Exactly. It's not about pushing people away. It's about welcoming them in, even if it's through a slightly mischievous back door.
Okay, I love that analogy. So what's the one thing our listeners should take away from all of this, if they want to Grinchify their writing?
It's simple. Be bold, be honest, and don't be afraid to break the rules. Just like the Grinch. Your writing can be memorable precisely because it's different. And if you're looking for a little guidance on this journey to bolder writing, the article recommends a book called Poetry Master.
Poetry Master, I'll have to check that out.
They say it's full of strategies for writing that's cheeky, unforgettable, and yes, a little bit naughty.
Sounds right up my alley. All right, listeners, it's time to unleash your inner Grinch. Go forth and write with honesty, humor, and a healthy dose of cynicism. And remember, sometimes a little bit naughty is exactly what your words need to stand out from the crowd. So that's all from us this time. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.